There's been a massive leap in the past few years on the top end of the smartphone segment. Flagship phones are tiny production devices, and they're so good at what they do that I often just shoot and film and edit my stuff on my phone, which is pretty wild, something I wouldn't have done a couple of years ago. I don't often talk about it, but the trickle-down technology to more entry-level and mid-range smartphones has gotten really, really good. The Redmi Note 12 is a great example of this. If you're in the market for mid-range devices, hit the like button, and if there's enough of you that have liked this video up, maybe I'll make a couple more videos on more of these entry-level mid-range devices. All right, let's get into this one. So the Redmi Note 12 is a new mid-range smartphone from Xiaomi. As of right now, this cheeky little device is sitting at 4,599 Rand on Takealot. That's the cheapest that I could find it. So you can pick this up for under 5,000 Rand, which is wild. And you're gonna see why now, specs-wise. Xiaomi are really focusing on the affordable approach across their entire range, whether it's smart home devices, tablets, and even their flagship phones like the Xiaomi 13 and 14 Pro. They're really affordable for the specs that they've got smashed inside of them. Weird. And of course, Xiaomi's got a massive enthusiast community. People that are diehards for the devices, and you know, because of that, like, you have this really hectic Xiaomi cult following, and there's good reason for it. But a lot of countries actually don't have access to Xiaomi devices, so you'll find that people don't really understand how the naming structure of the company and the devices work. So if it's got the word Xiaomi in the name, like the Xiaomi 13 and 14 Pro, it's considered their top tier range of devices. If it's got Redmi, you'll know that it's part of their more affordable entry-level devices. So I hope that clears it up for you. So this Redmi means Xiaomi. All right, back to the Redmi Note 12. It's got a 6.67-inch AMOLED display, a side button fingerprint reader, a Snapdragon 685 processor, 4 gigs of RAM, and 64 gigs of storage. It also has a triple camera system on the back, 50 megapixel main sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, and a 2 megapixel macro sensor. The Redmi Note 12's got a lot going for it for its price. The display is bright, it's vibrant, the processor is powerful enough for most tasks, and the camera system takes really decent photos in most conditions. Bear in mind that although it's a 50 megapixel camera, this isn't a Samsung S23 Ultra or even an S23 for that matter. The processor is doing some really great work with the images, but again, it's not of the same pedigree of the top tier flagship Android devices. The battery life is excellent with a 5,000 milliamp battery, which I wasn't expecting in a phone of this price range. That's a huge battery. And the phone charges really quickly at 33 watts fast charging. And if you've got a modern smartphone with quick charge or fast charging, you'll know how hard it is to live without it. So I'm pretty stoked that they added it into the Note 12. This is gonna be controversial, but I really like the back of the device. Plastic backs, this is a plastic back here, are generally considered cheap in inverted commas in the smartphone world, but with the right texture and finish, I often prefer them over glass, and especially metal backs. I hate a metal backed phone. It's dense and it's terrible. It's more durable, lighter, and for that, I'm really happy to take a price cut because, yeah, I like the finish, and if it makes it cheaper, why not? The review unit that I received was this blue one that they're calling Ice Blue, which I think is a really cool color, but the black is specifically, I think especially, like a really cool version of this. It looks really high end. Yet another really pleasant surprise is that it's got 120 Hertz display, something that I definitely didn't expect to see in a sub 5,000 Rand phone. This is great for a smooth operating experience, you know, so when you are operating the menus, look at that, it's nice and smooth. You won't be able to see it from this camera, but it's really cool. But the Snapdragon 685 processor that it's got inside this isn't the best. So don't expect to see all those frames in fast games like Asphalt. Maybe you can do some tweaking and get the graphics low to get as many frames as you can, but again, this isn't like the top end processor, and that's where all the GPU is, and you know, that's where it's all going down. But I will take 120 Hertz just to have that really slick display. It's really hard to go back from a high refresh rate phone to a 60 Hertz phone. The Redmi Note 12 does have a couple of downsides. The build quality is not as good as some other phones in this price range. It's running Android 12 with the MIUI 13 interface, which it takes some getting used to. It's Xiaomi's like skin over the Android operating system, but it's really slick and easy to understand because it's kind of like stock Android, if you'd like. I'm not a fan of their screens, the actual glass on top of the screens. They seem to scratch a little bit easier than other manufacturers, but it does come with an applied screen protector on the front out of the box. And obviously, if you wanted to get a better screen protector or a different one, you can pick up a third-party one if your region has stock for the device. It also lacks some other features that come standard in mid-range phones. That specifically for me was wireless charging. It's got so many cool features. It even has a headphone jack on the top. It's kind of a big disappointment. And the disappointment hits a little harder because it's got so many of these flagship features. And you kind of just expect something like wireless charging to be in it. But I think that's just because I'm a little bit spoiled. So thanks, Xiaomi, for spoiling us with all these features in a very cheap phone, I guess. I think we need to compare the Redmi with another device that most people are looking to buy at this tier, and it's the Samsung Galaxy A53. Currently, the A53 is more expensive at a price point of the cheapest I can find it is 8,799 Rand on Takealot. That makes it nearly double the price of the Redmi Note 12. Spec for spec, they're pretty similar, except in a couple of key areas. The A53 has a better front-facing camera with 32 megapixels compared to the Redmi Note 12's 16 megapixels. It's also using Samsung's camera software, which is much better at the moment. Samsung really have phenomenal software when it comes to image processing. The rear camera also has a bigger sensor than the Note 12's 50 megapixel sensor at 64 megapixels and includes a depth sensor for better portrait photos, which I really like. To me, that is such a good feature to include in a more entry-level device. But if you don't care about those kind of features and it's not the way you use your phone, then the Redmi has faster charging over the A53's 25 watt. It also has a slightly larger display, as you can see, as part of the Note aesthetic, and it comes in at close to half the price. Ultimately, the best phone for you will depend on how your individual needs work with devices, your preferences and your smartphone applications. Like, what do you use your smartphone for? If you're looking for the best possible performance, especially if you're a content creator when it comes to the cameras, then I think the Samsung Galaxy A53 might be a better choice for you. But it does come with that price point. So if you are looking for the best value for money, need a phone for that's useful, that you can do your work with, getting stuff done, it needs a larger screen, takes really decent shots, the camera's not terrible, then the Redmi Note 12 is a great option. I think this is really cool. My verdict overall is that the Redmi Note 12 is a good value for money smartphone. It's got a lot to offer for people that are using this at this price range, and it's a very powerful and affordable device. So thanks for bringing this into the country, Xiaomi. I appreciate it. If you guys are looking at getting phones in this price tier, what were your considerations? I actually would really like to know. And would you consider a Redmi device at all? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you guys in another video. Cheers.